We're glad you're here, and we're about to begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. KenCast After Dark. Stimulating conversations all night long. And here's your host, Ken Cole.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another KenCast After Dark. It's great to have you here live, and it's great to have you here on the replay if you're watching on the replay. Tonight, we have a very interesting conversation. We're going to be talking about something that's become a bit of a controversy lately. It's this crucial scene when Kenny was fighting Hawk, and Kenny won, and he used the silver bullet. This scene has caused a lot of discussion, and so I thought it would make a great topic for a KenCast, and I wanted to bring in one of the top experts on this type of discussion to share his wisdom with you tonight. I'd like to welcome our very special guest, Strife the Warrior. Strife, it's wonderful to see you.
Hey, good to see you, man. Top expert, bro. You're making me laugh back here, making me blush over here. It's always fun to be on the KenCast, but it's my first time on KenCast After Dark, so I'm really excited about this. So.
Well, thank you for joining us after dark. And thanks to everyone else for joining us. Guys, as always, if you're watching live, we love to see your live comments. We look at them, we read them, we include them in the discussion. So please let us know what you think. If you're watching on a replay, just leave a comment under the video. And Strife and I, either one of us and other people watching the video will be able to respond and continue the discussion that way. So I'd like to just take a second and say hi to everyone. Lisa, channel member, thank you for being a member. Thanks for watching. Nathan, great to see you. Jennifer, good to see you again. Josh, yeah, I like that. Kenny. Yep. Great line from Terry Silver. Gabe, great to see you. Melissa, wonderful to see you. Tracy, great to see you. And then Marianella, wonderful to see you again. Nate has a question. Will there be a season 6? I've gotten a lot of comments lately where people seem to be a little more down on the idea that there will be a season 6. Strife, what would you say just off the top?
Yeah, I mean they have said before that the initial plan was always 6 seasons, and now that might even be more. But obviously they're just still working on stuff. They have other projects too, and like me, like I like to talk about other things just outside of Cobra Kai too. Sometimes I like to talk about Rocky or other stuff. So yeah, like it's always right. Yeah. So and the other thing too is just like they put season 4 and 5 back to back, and really season 3 in a sense that they it was like 3 seasons, in an 18-month span. So right. Yeah, they've brought us a lot of content. They definitely deserve the break too, to like make sure that season 6 is gonna come out really great.
I love that perspective. I love how you put it that way. You're right. They deserve a little bit of a break. And, if that's great time where they can think about other things and get re-energized for Cobra Kai, that's just fine with me. Toto,
my girlfriend, Toto. Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see you. We've enjoyed looking at your cosplays with Strife, at all the different events. You guys are fantastic. Courtney, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Robert, Kenny's the goat. Yeah, we will talk about that today. Claude Leon, thank you for being a member. Great to see you. And Josh says Hawk versus Hawk, Julie Pierce pet in next Karate Kid in season 6. I love it. I wonder if that was a kind of an homage to Next Karate Kid.
Yeah, it could have been.
That's hello. Hi, Jack Tripper. Speaking of Rocky, did you see the Creed 3 trailer? We did, and we will talk about that in just a little bit. In fact, I don't know, Strife, maybe we should talk about some news.
KenCast News.
Okay, wonderful. Great to have you here. Claude Leon, thank you for the sticker. Woo! Guys, thank you for the super chats and stickers. They help support the channel. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Tracy says, I love the Creed 3 trailer. Yeah, let me bring up just some news. Guys, you might have seen, I have a new video out today. Terry is not guilty. This is kind of a condensing of a KenCast that we had talking about all the legal reasons. We brought in the Cobra Kai legal experts to talk about why Terry Silver is actually not guilty in a court of law. Definitely check it out if you're interested. And of course, we are promoting the campaign Save Silver. We want to get Terry Silver out of jail. I won't put Strife on the spot. Everyone's free to have their own opinion, but here in the Ken Cole channel and on KenCast, we get behind Terry Silver. We try to understand where he's coming from, and we think he might do more good than harm in the world. He has a lot of great qualities, so we are trying to campaign to get him out of jail. So use hashtag Save Silver. Call your representatives. Thank you very much. Really appreciate all your support. We have a couple of other. I want to bring up some news articles, and some of you might have seen some of these. One of them involves the actual home that was used, that is being used for Daniel LaRusso's home in the Cobra Kai series. TMZ is reporting that you can stay there. You can make it your dojo for $2,300 per night. You can rent out the LaRusso household. And it's kind of cool. I guess they had new owners, and they restored it, and they kind of did it over, and they have all this memorabilia in the mansion, and it's pretty huge. It's almost 10,000 square feet, and there you go. It's like all the settings from the show, from relaxing by the pool, some nude swimming from Chosen, all the way to a Rumble inside. It took place here. So if you ever wanted to stay here, you could. Strife, would you ever want to stay at the LaRusso house?
Oh yeah, if I had the money, I definitely would.
Exactly.
It would. So because like what, that place is in Georgia, right? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, like there's some conventions in Georgia. Like if if the price was right, I'd definitely like stay at that house for a weekend and drive it to the convention the next day. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I'm glad that it's available, which I guess it means if it's available to stay in, it's available to shoot in for future seasons of Cobra Kai. So that's always a good thing. Okay, next we have another news story, and we've been talking about this before. Strife is a fan, and as am I, but he's done some amazing analysis videos. By the way, guys, if you're not subscribed to Strife the Warrior, you need to go and subscribe. He does these amazing in-depth analysis videos of the Cobra Kai series, but he goes beyond that. And he's done some amazing videos on the Rocky series. So before we share this, let me ask you, Strife, what have you thought of the new Creed movies?
They're great. As we've kind of talked about before, if it wasn't like, I think Cobra Kai still would have been successful if Creed had not been there first, but they've definitely helped. They've definitely kind of like established a decent formula that worked, because you have, the new generation intersecting with the old generation while also, paying tribute, as well as Cobra Kai does. But yeah, I love them. Especially because how, Rocky 5, a lot of people kind of felt like, kind of good and bad. There's like, like I say with Karate Kid Part 3, there's like, and next Karate Kid, there's both good and bad things about the movies. But Rocky Balboa, I think it did fairly well justice too. So it's kind of cool that like they still even came back 9 years later and just kind of like where they have Rocky passing the torch. So I was really excited for, when they finally said, hey, we're working on Creed 3. I'm sad it got pushed back because it was supposed to come out next month. And that would have been a Rocky tradition too, because I think a few of the movies have come out like around Thanksgiving or November.
You're right.
Yeah, but the fact that they pushed it back, and like they've also finally given us more information too is really cool. So
yeah, I can't wait. I've really enjoyed, man, that first Creed movie was I just thought that was excellent. I thought that was a masterpiece. I think that's as far as like that type of movie, wonderful. That could have been one of the best in the entire Rocky series. And of course it shares a lot of DNA with the Karate Kid. The same director of the original Karate Kid did the original Rocky and Rocky 5. Both underdog stories, and I know a lot of people think of the Karate Kid as the Rocky for kids. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
very cool. So basically, some of you have already mentioned this, but the trailer for Creed 3 came out today. So if you guys are interested in this, you may want to check out the trailer for Creed 3. And this is Michael B. Jordan. He plays Adonis Creed. This is his directorial debut. And Strife, tell me, what did you, and yeah, I assume you've seen the trailer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what do you think of this new trailer?
I'm going to say the first thing that kind of stuck out to me, which I'm really excited about, they're bringing back Ricky Conlon, the antagonist from the first film, the guy that Adonis fights before he goes to jail and tries to fight for the championship. So
Right.
they made the cuts very quick, but you can tell it's like Ricky that he's fighting against. So that's interesting. So yeah. I thought this was like overall I like the plot because it's like okay, first like the first movie he was fighting to like live his own name. Then the second movie, he's defending like his father's honor, and then trying to seek revenge for like and beat a Drago, which is what his father couldn't do. And so like the third one, it actually kind of like this new plot of like this childhood friend that he got busted with, and I guess maybe this guy took the fall for him. I don't know. They haven't really explicitly stated that, but I'm kind of assuming that's where the plot going. Comes out of prison 18 years later and is now jealous of all the success that Adonis has and says, hey, I was always the better one. So, and this is kind of like a dynamic that you haven't really seen before because, Rocky had always kind of fought opponents that were unfamiliar. He had Apollo Creed who handpicked him. And then they eventually became friends afterwards. Right. And then you had Mr. Like in a way, this is kind of like Clubber Lang where, jealous of his success, wants to prove that he's a real champion because Rocky had been protected. Then of course he had Ivan Drago coming over from the north, and then then Rocky had fought a student. So this is kind of like a very new dynamic, which is something they need because you have all these different ways they've gone, but they've never gone of like childhood friend versus childhood friend.
Right.
So kind of a really cool story. I think that's like one of the most logical storylines they could have gone with.
Right. And, you bring up a really good point. Rocky almost never really knew who, like personally, his opponents in those movies.
Right.
And with the past two Creed movies, it's, I know people were talking about Creed 3, Creed 4, the future Creed sequels. Well, okay, is he going to fight Clubber Lang's son? And, you got this feeling that, oh, well, so is basically Adonis Creed going to be sort of redoing Rocky's battles like through all the sequels and stuff. And it's really cool. Like you said, it's a new dynamic, but it's completely free of like Rocky doesn't need to be here for it. It's sort of like it's his own story, which is pretty cool.
And that also would have been too predictable, right? Because like Drago made sense because of look at the history of Ivan had with both Rocky and Apollo. And of course now training his son and being disgraced and all that. So like to have done it again with Clubber Lang's son, that would have kind of been it would have been very formulaic. So like going on this new take is like really, really cool in my opinion. So.
Well, that's great. And I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on Creed 3 when it comes out in March. So that'll be really cool. Darkest Hour says Creed 3 looks great. Took the angry, violent Mr. T-type character and made him closer to home. Yeah, there's something. I got to say something like, his new opponent is Jonathan Majors, plays him. To me, it's like, he really seems like a threat. Like he really feels like a personal threat to Adonis in this one. Which I think, in the previous two movies, they were just opponents. But yeah, he really does feel like a personal threat to Adonis.
And speaking of darkest comment too, that also kind of makes sense because like if the Rocky Legends game is canon, Clubber Lang was also in prison, and that's another reason that kind of gave him like that that edge too, because of like how hungry he was. He gets out of prison and climbs his way all the way to the top. So this would kind of make sense. And one thing I just thought of too, it's almost in a sense like Adonis also kind of like having his own somewhat Tommy Gunn arc because he's like assuming that he's training, he's like, hey, come to the gym, show me what you got. Assuming that he's having his hand in training. We also had that same scene where, where Tommy went too hard on his training partner, and so did Dame Anderson, which is the new opponent's name, did the same thing with this guy. So you kind of have a little bit of tribute like to some of the Rocky stories there too, which is nice. So.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Tracy talking about the house. We drove by the house last month. Nice. That's pretty cool. It must be fun to be able to drive by the house. And I guess you're just about 2 hours out of Georgia, which is really great. Chris disagrees. He says Kreese is not guilty. Silver is guilty. Yeah, I understand it's controversial, but watch the video and we'll make our case. Um, James Armstrong, good to see you, James. Thank you for being a channel member. I wonder how much extra it would cost to have Ralph or William stay there with people.
Oh,
I mean,
out the wazoo.
yeah. Now, obviously, you've gone to a lot of these conventions, Strife, and we talked with Christine Tigdaly, and she went to see Thomas Ian Griffith at the FanX convention. Obviously, you can pay for these types of things. What do you think of something like that, where for some high roller, you could actually sort of hang out with Ralph and William and in that house?
I don't know. That would have to be like some kind of vacation package, I'd imagine. Like some
Mhm.
very like high end vacation package. Yeah, because that's hard to say. Because that also like they probably only be there for a certain amount of time on certain days and stuff like that. So I have no clue. I don't know what the price would be on that, but I can just imagine expensive.
Right. And James adds, as their characters, of course. Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
they'd have to be in character the whole time. That would be that would be
Cobra
crazy.
Kai Disneyland, I guess, at this point.
I know. Jack Tripper says, I liked Rocky 5 because Mickey was in it. And I
Yeah,
gotta
that was
be
good.
honest with you. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, Strife. I don't hate Rocky 5 as much as some other people do. I like watching it. I understand like it's not as good as some of the other ones, but it's a legit Rocky movie. I do not dislike Rocky 5. Is that a weird thing to say?
No, like I said, I don't necessarily hate the movie either. I will just definitely say it's one of the weaker films of the whole, and I think that's a fair statement considering the
Mhm.
box office performance, and Sylvester also saying that he didn't like it years after the fact. But
Right.
it had its moments. And the other thing too is just like it was also, I think if Rocky 4 may have been written differently, um, it might have seemed like a better Rocky film because it's like, how is Tommy gonna threat, after Ivan Drago? That's like kind of like one of
Right.
the biggest flaws I think of that movie. But the other side of that is he's probably a threat because Rocky now has all this, the brain damage and everything. He's saying that like, and they're saying like another fight could kill him. So,
Right.
but I think it's still a good Rocky film. Like it's still one of the, it's still a good film. I'm not going to say like it's unwatchable. Like that would just be
Right.
silly to say. But I just say it's one of the weaker films, but it's it still has its good moments.
Yeah, I'm remembering back to the first time I saw it, and the only part I really felt disappointed by, I didn't like the end. Like, I knew that they were trying to do something different with the street fight and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I remember at that time, I didn't like that end. Like, it didn't
Mhm.
seem quite right. I was kinda hoping it would go towards, a traditional actual fight, like a actual boxing match between the 2, but
Right.
I don't know, that was a long time ago. Um Ben, great to see you, Ben. Creed 3 should be good. Absolutely. I totally agree. Melissa, good to see you. Question for you, Strife. I know that you've been taking a well deserved break from the channel, but does this mean that you are back and are going to continue with the character analysis on Cobra Kai?
No, I'm not back officially yet. I'm still, I'm just taking a break from making videos, but like, podcasts and stuff like that, like I'm totally okay with doing. I don't want to put a timestamp of when I'll be returning, just because then at that point I feel like the break is rushed, so to speak. So it's one of those things where I still gotta let my pen and paper. Well, I use computer, but pen and paper cool, so to speak. Just because like it just kind of give you, and just to kind of also add to this question, like, and as I've told Ken before, like my video process, but like when a new season drops, I'm having to rewatch that season so many times. Like, first, obviously I watched it the first time, like fresh, brand new. Then I'm watching it again for like my Easter eggs video. Then if I'm focusing on a certain character, which is, I did like a few different characters, then I have to rewatch the season again from that character's perspective. So yeah, like you can
Right.
kind of see how old that gets really fast. Even if you're a diehard fan, like that's why I kind of had to put a limit on like the season 4 videos too, because at that point, like because I had wanted to put out the Daniel video before I went on break, but it just, I just at that point I just felt like it was so forced because I had to also cover Daniel from season 4 and season 5, kind of like I did with Johnny season 3 and season 4.
Mhm.
So, just like trying to do that, especially with the character like that, like Johnny, Daniel, Miguel, they're all very prominent characters, so they're going to have more screen time. That just takes so like a lot out of me. So I would rather do it to where I'm not like hating my work, where I'm like, because you watch, you're rewatching so many times, like, oh, like then it starts to feel like a chore. So like,
Right.
and that's the one thing I've learned is that the minute something starts to feel like a chore, stop and like give yourself a break, because I've been burnt out like many times with streaming that way, cosplay that way. So I'm kind of like just Chosen said it best when he was training Sam, like you got to save it for the fight. You can't tire yourself out. So
that's a great point. Excellent point. And yes, you are taking a well-deserved break. And thank you for just having fun, having a discussion with us tonight. James asks, "Where's Thunder Lips?" It's a good.
Don't know.
He's legit. He's canon. I don't know. They just got to pull up the Hulkster and he's back. I just think that was Melissa maybe starting to jump into the conversation. Kenny felt like he was in an extreme situation when he was fighting Hawk, so he went to an extreme measure. The quicksilver bullet. That's food for thought, guys. And if you guys have thoughts on this fight, the characters of Kenny or Hawk, please let us know. Ben Metella says John Alvinson came back to direct Rocky V. Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's a director as Karate Kid fans we love as well. He directed all 3 of the Daniel Karate Kid movies. James says Rocky V was kind of scary when Rocky had those hallucinations after being hit in the head by Tommy. Indeed. Josh says Cobra Kai. Yes. Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you guys for participating in our little news section. Now let's get into our discussion.
KenCast discussion.
All right, we got to take a time out real quick. My contact is bugging me. I'm so sorry. Let me go take care of that real quick. I'll be right back.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, let's we'll go to your comments and let me read what you guys think of this whole Kenny Hawk rivalry. Phoenix, good to see you, Phoenix, comment star. I can say that I felt Hawk Eli got shafted by that quote lucky silver bullet by Kenny. But after seeing his arc in season 4 and 5, I think they'll explore Kenny more in season 6 with maybe Sean coming back. That's an interesting point because obviously we saw Sean Payne in prison or in juvie with Robbie, and we saw just how big, how fearsome he is. And he had a very different attitude than Kenny had, at least at the beginning of season 4. So if Sean comes back, I'm wondering how he and Kenny will interact and how that might impact Kenny's growth, Kenny's willingness to use techniques like the silver bullet. I don't know. That's a very interesting point. And let me bring back, how you doing, Strife?
Good. I'm better now. See, that's like the one thing about having a bathroom that's like right there. So like, living in a house like this. And that's another thing too, on my break, I was finally able to start like taking care of like my vision a little bit more. So, nice. Quick interesting fact. Apparently my eyes got strong enough to where I actually only need to wear one contact, which is my right eye. So I used to be able to have to wear 2. So
yes. Wow. Wow. Very cool. Well, I'm glad it's great to have you back. Mm-hmm. It looks like the conversations are still going. People have their thoughts. James says, speaking of the silver bullet, do you think that might end up being a banned move by the All Valley tournament owners if they catch on to the damage it causes? Well, this is kind of an interesting point. And before we jump into this Strife, I might actually have you, if you guys remember, this is episode 8 of season 5. We have this fight between Kenny and Hawk, and it didn't go so well for Hawk. Can you set this up for us, Strife? What happened for those who maybe haven't watched season 5 recently, and what is this big discussion about right now?
So controversially, which that's really what it was. It was a controversial match. Kenny was able to defeat Hawk by 2 points, but I say that with a grain of salt because we all obviously saw that the ref was crooked. He should have given Hawk a point, and also should have, taken a point away from Kenny for that illegal strike that he did. So really, the true score should have been 1-1 because, I kind of use this saying when I've talked about, Miguel attacking Robbie's shoulder and still scoring a point in the All Valley, like the end of the All Valley in season 1, and Johnny sweeping the leg in Karate Kid part 1. This also applies to Kenny and Hawk. The move was legal but unethical. Like I've said that before in a lot of my discussion. Just because it was legal doesn't mean it was ethical. So that's kind of what happened. And a lot of people are very upset because, Hawk's a beloved character. But yeah, that's kind of like what happened here is that Kenny did get the last laugh. So yeah, that's kind of like the gist of it. Before I go off on tangents, I want to try to like take my time with this.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, I think that puts it in perspective. That's fantastic. Dude says Kenny is a good character. I'd like to see in future seasons and films.
He's well written for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Great performance as well. Aiming Wonder says, Ken, what are your thoughts of Silver teaching a kid a way to be able to stop someone from breathing? Well, I think Terry, he said it well when he was talking to Tori about what you need to do for survival. I think these are survival techniques that Terry's teaching. It seems drastic, but remember in Karate Kid 3, he did that same thing with Daniel. That's part of the Quicksilver method. It's never directly referenced in Cobra Kai season 5 until that end fight with Daniel. But really, this technique that he taught Kenny is a way to stop them from breathing. That's step 2 of the Quicksilver method. So it's nothing new. This is part of his MO. And yeah, people might say it's extreme, but I think as Strife was saying here, it's an unethical move in this type of match. Mm-hmm. Whether you're okay with being unethical, that's up to you. But I think it's valid maybe in a real life fighting scenario where you are fighting for your life, where you're truly fighting for survival. This is a genuine technique. And Strife, I think you're going to be talking about that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
And Detective Bat says, I didn't mind Terry teaching him the silver bullet. Kenny had an interesting arc. Lisa says Kenny and Hawk are okay characters. And Dude says most of the characters are quite good, very rare for that to happen. Okay, so Strife. Now let's get to the controversy. So this has turned out to be kind of a controversial development. What happened in this fight? Can you go over the controversy? And I know you've seen it in your own Discord. Yeah.
But air my grievances, man. Yeah.
So I will give the floor to you if you kind of explain to us what the great controversy is.
So a lot of people are just upset that Kenny beat Hawk. That's really what it kind of comes down to it. And I think I'm gonna kind of go in some of the reasons of like why that happened stuff. But we're just talking about why it's controversial, right? So
right.
Like people are mad that Kenny beat Hawk and whatnot. I don't know if I want to go in this reason yet for the writer. Should I go in the writer standpoint reason too of like why? Well, no, let's just talk about
however you want to do it.
Yeah. So but the thing is, like, people keep forgetting it was a controversial ending. Like I said, when I broke down the points, if he would have had that point taken off, which the first one where he struck Hawk, and then where if Hawk got that point that he should have counted for, if we're just counting the silver bullet, it would have been 1-1. It's kind of like they would have like had it tied. It would have been like the same thing with Robbie and Hawk season 1-1, and then Hawk got disqualified. So that's kind of where the controversy is. It really has to do with like Hawk being a well-established character and losing to Kenny, which again, there's reasons. I'm not saying the reasons why the writers did it are valid or not. I'm not a writer for the show. I'm just making sense as best I can. It's like what I usually do with videos, but that's kind of like the main controversy. The main part of it, yeah.
Well, Shuhan says, in the end, isn't the silver bullet just a punch to the chest? But it's just an accurate shot. It's not like a throat punch. What would you say to that?
So I guess we could talk about the technique here too. First of all, what I'm going to say is the silver bullet is probably one of the most accurate techniques that's ever been seen in Cobra Kai. And there's a few, and the main thing about that too is because it targets the solar plexus, which is like right here, like kind of like on your chest area. So like when I saw what they were going for, I was like, oh, okay, that's actually a really legitimate technique. First, well, another side point is that I played this VR game called Thrill of the Fight. As you can guess, it's a boxing simulator. But the thing about this game is it's very accurate in that professional boxers have praised its how accurate it is, and so have amateur boxers, because it's not like a traditional fighting game where you have like a life bar and a life bar. It works on a poison system. So what that means is kind of like a real fight. The more damage you deal, like later on, it's gonna be easier for them to knock out. And it also teaches you the weak points. So it teaches you, the jaw, of course, and the chin, the temple, the liver, and the solar plexus. And what's cool about this game is when you hit those weak points, your opponent reacts to it. You can see them visibly and also audibly, or hear them audibly react to it. So you're like, ooh, and like when you aim for that solar plexus, which is where the silver bullet targets, you go, like their breath is taken away. And so that it's a legitimate fighting technique.
And actually, I think I've got a video here that you sent me. Should I put it up?
Yeah. Put the boxing one up. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are real boxing fights. Right there. Look. Down. And these guys are obviously trained professionals too. It's like it's a weak point. What's this other one? Crumpled. It's a legitimate fighting technique. Like, and legal in boxing too. As you can see, it's legal. And see right here, this guy, one of these like looked really vicious, and I can't. Maybe was it this one? Yeah, like see, he just like. It's a weak point. Like Mr. Miyagi said, it's the same effect of Mr. Miyagi, primary target where Daniel hit Chosen in the drums, like in Karate Kid Part 2. Like anybody's gonna crumple to that. Like that's the thing. It's a legitimate, and you see these guys are trained athletes, trained professional, and crumpled.
Yeah, that looks absolutely brutal. And yeah, so that's a great demonstration of how legit this is. This is a legit thing to do. It's obviously in boxing. I assume it's fair game, legal, but maybe unethical as far as these matches go.
Yeah.
Dude says like a liver shot.
Exactly. Yeah.
James says, yeah, but they're wearing gloves.
Yeah, but still look how they still crumpled from wearing gloves though. Like even with gloves on, with the padding there, they still crumpled. So yeah, right. It does damage where you're wearing gloves or not, or oven mitts. It's gonna hit, it's gonna hurt. So
right.
That's the main point here. It's like even if you're wearing gloves and you hit somebody in the nuts, it's gonna hurt. Like it's still right. It's a primary target. So
yes, indeed. I like Jay's comment. The silver bullet has Bobby's flying jump kick accuracy. Yes, he was very accurate there in the first Karate Kid movie. I love that. Melissa says the fact that Silver was okay with Kenny using the quicksilver bullet on Hawk showed that he doesn't care about ethics and only cares about winning. No morals or sportsmanship exists with Silver. Now, okay, and we could talk about this too. I guess it's a good valid question about sportsmanship. Directly relates to the situation. From Terry Silver's perspective, he explained this to Tori. Whether you agree with him or not, it's up to you. But he said that it's justified because this is a matter of Cobra Kai's survival. Right. And this is his legacy that he needs to survive. So what he's doing is he's ensuring that happens. And basically any extreme measures are justified in doing that. Would that be about right, Strife?
That would be his motivations, yeah.
Right.
From what he's talking about.
How important, Strife, is sportsmanship in a situation like that? In a situation like this, when we look at the characters of Kenny and Hawk?
It's everything. I mean, it's like what Johnny said in season 2. There's a difference between no mercy and no honor. And like even Chosen, like as vicious as he was, he cared about honor.
Yeah, I know. I love that when he was teaching Tori a little bit about honor. That was very cool. Darkest Hour says between Chosen's technique disabling the arm and Terry Silver's bullet, the techniques are becoming more violent and dangerous. We've yet to see Dugan's more murderous methods. Will someone die? the old death question, Strife. I know we've talked about this too before.
Every KenCast, yeah.
Everyone wants to know, is someone going to die? And I kind of feel like, and so far, I mean, I think it's proven true. I feel like this type of show isn't as much concerned with people dying. And I know it's teased every new season that someone's going to die. But like we saw in season 5, there were some fake outs, but no one died.
Right.
I think someone could die, but after watching season 5, Strife, what do you think about the death question going forward?
Maybe, well, like as I said before, I don't ever see it happening until the last season. And if season 6 is the last season, that's when they'll probably do, somebody, I don't know who, but yeah, that's kind of what I think about that. But the big three have also said they weren't ever sure if they were gonna be able to kill anybody off, so it's it's hard to say. But that's my theory. It's only gonna happen if it's the last season, and it would have to be impact, like that'd have to be kind of like where it ends, like the show, I believe so.
Right, exactly. And there's another aspect. There's the story aspect, but also there's the production aspect. And I know they've talked about spin-off series, maybe spin-off movies based on the Cobra Kai series.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that would have to be going through their heads. Say, for example, if we killed off John Kreese or Terry Silver, well, then we can't really use them like in a spin-off show that at least that exists in the current timeline, maybe in flashbacks, but that character's off the table. And so that might be a reason why we might not see major characters die, because they might have other plans for them in other series. I don't know. Yeah. That's just an idea. Dude says Tyrone Woodley should come back, but with a bionic finger. It was great to see the other real life fighters this season. Yeah. Absolutely. Jack Tripper. Okay. What do you guys think of the nerfing of beloved characters, Hawk, Miguel, and Robbie? And so I guess this is a larger issue. I guess this maybe ties into is people feel like maybe in season 5 that these older, more senior kid characters are a bit nerfed, or they're not as good as they were in prior seasons. What are your thoughts on that, story?
Well, yeah, that's another whole other thing I got to get into, but I do want to go back to the silver bullet for a quick second, because there was one thing I also forgot to talk about, the technique. So if you want to pull up the clip of Yusuke that I talked to you about earlier. So you guys have probably seen him before. He's a legitimate martial arts master that has reacted to the Cobra Kai series, real life sensei named Yusuke. And he actually talks about, I was just going to say real quick. So he actually talks about why it's important to bend your finger like this and strike some. So he talks about like bending the finger back. And what does Kenny and Silver do? They bend the finger back like they're shooting a gun. And that adds even more validity to why the silver bullet is a legitimate technique, because you're not only aiming for the weak point, you're using your finger to make it to inflict even more damage. And so you just like, when you do that, I can only imagine what that feels like. So
right. So basically what you're saying is it's a legitimate technique, and if people want to talk about, say, nerfing characters, in this case Hawk, maybe he wasn't nerfed because that's a legitimate technique that Kenny could use in real life to take down Hawk.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've said before too. It's just like, getting kicked in the private area, that's gonna hurt. Like, no matter how big you are, or how lean you are, that's gonna hurt and gonna make you go down. That's I wish people would understand that more, of why that move was so legitimate. Yes, I get he suckered Robbie like in that too, in the final dojo fight too. And I know a lot of people are upset about that too, but yeah, you have to also remember too, like Robbie was caught off guard. He got hit by one of his friends, and then Kenny like went in for the sucker punch. Yes, I will say that's a legitimate sucker punch, but that's a real thing. Like, no, and as we saw, like, with these guys that are, were boxing with gloves, still crumpling, like, from all that.
Right.
Like, I can't stress that enough. So, but in regards of nerfing characters, this will also kind of get into like the whole writing standpoint too. I will say this: everybody would have been even more mad if Kenny beat Miguel, or Kenny beat Hawk clean sweep without having to resort to the silver bullet. They would have been even more mad. And the thing is too, it's just like, I know a lot of people have said, well, he should have fought Robbie. We've already But we've already seen that fight. We know Robbie could have easily whooped him, and we also know in the dojo too, he just didn't want to fight Kenny. That's why he let his guard down.
Right.
It's like it's the exact parallel of season 3 where excuse me, Johnny is fighting Kreese, and then Robbie steps in and starts attacking him. He doesn't want to attack his own son. It's the same exact parallel. We know Robbie would have done that. So I don't think any of them were really, obviously, if you want to call Miguel falling off season 2 a nerf, sure, whatever. But like even season 5, we see he's even more at his peak than I thought he was in season 2. And the other thing I will say about, just because it's kind of like a long, I know it's kind of like a long answer, but another reason why I think a lot of people don't realize, unlike a lot of these other characters, like unlike Miguel, Hawk, and Robbie, Kenny was learning 2 styles at once, not just one. Nobody ever talks about that part, because when Kenny came in, Robbie was already teaching Cobra Kai Miyagi-Do. He knew their styles. Robbie taught them everything that he learned, because we saw Robbie even knew the drum technique that he taught to Kenny that he used in the tournament. So I'm not saying that made Kenny a better fighter, but that definitely gave him an advantage. He knew how to counter those styles and whatnot. As you saw too, he used the paint the fence to counter Hawk's strike and then hit him with the silver bullet. Like that's like that's I can't even like explain that any even more than I have to. So, but yeah, it's I'm not saying it makes Kenny a legitimate fighter, or I agree with the reasons why they should have put Hawk to fight Kenny. But I will also say though, when they do stuff like this, there's also probably going to be a bigger picture of that aspect that might happen in season 6. As we saw Miguel, falling off the ledge in season 2 and breaking his back, that had a lot of validity and a lot of storyline they set up for season 3. And the other thing too is just that like a lot of people act like this is Hawk's first ever loss. Everybody forgets in season 2 that he got whooped by Robbie and Dimitri like in the same season. So like, and like he said it, his character said it best at the end of season 5. You know what? That's fine. You win some, you lose some, but at least I'm not losing always like you, like what he said to Kyler. So, that's basically the tail end of all that. I hope that answered y'all's question. So
that's a fantastic answer. I might even add to that. We've really never seen the impact of Terry Silver in his new regime on these kids before. He's a new factor, and we've seen that Terry Silver brought Kenny under his wing, and we know that Terry's really good, but also a really good teacher. And his whole new regime, everyone, Devin getting much better. The characters aren't exactly the way they were during season 4. I mean, they've been improving. They've been going through this intense new Cobra Kai. And so
especially
all these
with Kim Da-eun. Kim Da-eun too getting brought in.
Kim Da-eun and all her henchmen too. I mean, Kenny, and we see through season 5, we see Kenny getting better, and he looks very impressive even before we get to that fight as well. So yeah, I can understand people being like, what? But especially if you're a huge fan of Hawk, but these younger kids are going to be coming up and getting better. I mean, I think that's just what's going to happen.
And another valid point too, we're really getting mad at that situation when the first movie literally had Daniel, who trained for a month and a half, beat Johnny with 5-year experience. Come on, guys. Is the Miyagi-verse ever going to be realistic? Come on. Like that's all that's point strife winner. So
well, it goes to show the power of a good teacher. And up to this point, Johnny is a good teacher, but he's been kind of figuring it out since season 1. Daniel, he's a good teacher, but he's been really trying to emulate Miyagi, who is really the great teacher. Then you have, I guess Kreese had been teaching for a while, but again, Terry Silver, a great teacher. Karate Kid movies teach us that if you have a Miyagi, if you have someone who's really great, they can work wonders on a motivated student. And so I don't know. I think you're right. I think this is exactly what we have here. And going into season 6, great to see you, Christian Crow. Thank you for joining us. Christian is very talented. He makes amazing content and trailers. Just incredible talent. I think season 6 will feel like an event. First of all, I don't think we'll see season 6 until 2 years from now, which gives us time to truly miss the show. Second of all, I think we're going to Japan in season 6. Yeah. So Strife,
Cool.
there is this. I mean, everything seems to be going more epic. They could go more epic in season 6. I'm kind of hoping that they'll do season 6 and 7 renewed both at once, and we'll get like this big, huge, massive arc over 2 seasons to close out the series at least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have feelings about how many more seasons you'd like to see.
I think maybe 1 or 2 more would be okay. What was I gonna say? I don't. And that's another complaint I've seen about season 5 too. Is they don't like how it's going epic and or going global and stuff like that. And just, but I like, you can't keep rehashing the same stories over and over. You can't keep Daniel and Johnny fighting all the time. You can't keep Daniel versus Cobra Kai all the time. Like, you got to add something fresh. And I think it's a fresh idea. It makes sense with Terry's character too. But to answer your question, maybe 1 or 2 more seasons. So like, they stopped at season 7, I'd be okay with that, because I also don't want them to drag it out like any more than they have to, and just but at the same time too, like, as long as they're taking their proper time to write everything and flesh everything out, which I think they've done, like, up until this point, I think it'll be okay. So
Right. We've got some great comments. Jay Wiggin, good to see you. Jay says Terry's a very good teacher. I bet he was excellent at training managers at Dynatox also. Yeah, I totally agree. And I love, Jay, that you have the silver bullet as your avatar.
profile,
That's fantastic. And then Shohan says, let's not forget Robbie even taught Kenny to rush and use his speed, and we can't ignore off-screen training. Right. Kenny was putting in work and grinding the entire time. Yes.
Yeah, that just to kind of quick point to that. Yeah, that's a great point. Robbie taught him, to use his speed and whatnot. And I mean, Miguel, same thing. Like, look at Miguel. He beat a former All Valley champion with 7-8 months of karate experience at his first All Valley. So,
absolutely. Now, here's an interesting question. Josh asks why Terry didn't use the silver bullet versus Chosen. I think Terry must teach his classic asa kick to his students. I don't know. Like, to me, it seemed like he didn't use it against Chosen because he had swords. Like, he could just grab his weapons and use those against Chosen. He didn't need to necessarily use the silver bullet. I don't know. What do you think, Strife?
Well, I think also, like, Chosen had such a vicious counterattack that Terry couldn't rely on his fists anymore. I think that's really why the fight escalated, because he saw how legitimate of a threat Chosen was. So,
right.
Because even like, and that was Chosen being drunk. So imagine if they both would have been sober. That would have been a very different fight, I think. So,
absolutely. Marianella has kind of a question. What do you think of the rumors that Julie Pierce could be Tori's mother, and that's why we can't see her face? There's a big mystery regarding Tori's mom. Right. So I know it happens every season. People are wondering, are these characters connected? Is it possible that Julie Pierce could be Tori's mom? What do you think of a theory like that, Strife?
No, it would be a dumb writing choice, just because of, I mean, look, and I say that because Julie is the only other student that Mr. Miyagi ever trained. Like, why would you, like, I get that people don't like The Next Karate Kid, and it's definitely one of the weaker films, but like, why would you have a character like that? Like, look at the justice they did to Mike Barnes and Chosen and Terry Silver, and especially Terry and Mike, considering that they were, again, one of the weaker Karate Kid movies, and look how much development that they've given. But no, I don't like that theory. I've never been a fan of it. Because then that would also like be the whole thing of like, why did she move to the Valley in the first place when she lived in Boston?
Right.
So.
And you would expect, if she was also important to Mr. Miyagi and one of his great students, that Daniel and Julie would know each other, especially if they're living almost right next to each other, and Daniel would be helping her. Like, they wouldn't be destitute. They wouldn't be scraping for money,
Not to mention that, the writers have confirmed that they both have met at Mr. Miyagi's funeral. So,
yeah, that's which, by the way, I would love to see Julie Pierce. I'd love to see her and Daniel interact. I think that would be great just for the entire canon of Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. 100%. Talking about the silver bullet, Aiming Wonder asks, I wonder if Kreese knows about the silver bullet. If he does, he could team up with Johnny and Daniel and teach the kids how to block it. What do you think, Strife? Does Kreese know about the silver bullet?
It's hard to say, because in a way, I mean, this could also be due to Thomas's taekwondo. Was it taekwondo, right? He's a black belt.
Yes, I think he's a black belt in at least one other style, but I don't know which one it is.
Well, I know, like, Silver was always presented as a slightly more legitimate threat in Karate Kid Part 3 because of Thomas's real life experience. So, and the reason I bring that up is it always made me think that, like, Silver knew a different derivative of Tang Soo Do, or the Cobra Kai fighting style, because he's always been more kick oriented. So it could be a maybe, but but I don't know if he would need to teach Johnny and Daniel, or not. I don't think he would need to teach Daniel how to block, because we saw Daniel block it, because when that uppercut that Silver tried to get him was a silver bullet. But I mean, it'd be kind of cool, but I don't know if Kreese would team up with Johnny and Daniel. As I've kind of talked about before, I think that was like the last nail in the coffin for any reconciliation of what, the message that Daniel left Kreese. So.
Right, exactly. I know it, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with Kreese, because he's a fugitive. This is what I'm wondering, is he obviously didn't commit the crime. We don't know how that's going to shake out with Stingray, but he still was in prison and he escaped and he's a fugitive. So I don't know if he's not a fugitive anymore, if he's cleared from the original crime, but he did assault, prison guards and the doctor and everything like that. So that's got to be a crime. So I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know how that ends for Kreese, or how he gets out of the pickle, because he can't go back into real life. He can't take over the Cobra Kai dojo because he's a fugitive.
Right.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what can happen. Jennifer, good to see you, Jennifer. I wonder if Kreese knew that Terry promised Mike 50%. I would think that would make Kreese angry, considering Cobra Kai is his child. Maybe that would make him turn more against Terry than he is. Yeah, it's interesting. Karate Kid 3, Terry originally said that John Kreese owned 100%. And then he kind of went behind Kreese's back and promised 50% to Mike Barnes. And I know I've talked about that in videos, and people have wondered, well, who is he being straight with? Was he even being straight with Mike Barnes, or any of them? But I don't know. To me, it does seem like Kreese is already probably really angry with Terry.
I wouldn't. I mean, he's already against Terry. He's basically against everybody at this point. So,
right. What do you think Kreese is going to do going forward? Strife.
So, kind of like I said before, like in a prior video that I've made, what's going to happen in season 6? He's either going to be on the run, or if it's the fact that he wants to still have his own legacy, because he was screwed out of Cobra Kai. But then again, to be honest, he did the same thing to Johnny, so it's karma. Kim, I imagine, as we've seen, has a good enough relationship with him. She asked about him, and then also we saw the flashback as well. That she could probably help with his legal troubles, and maybe they enter the Sekai Taikai together. I know that seems a little far-fetched, but we've seen crazier things happen in Cobra Kai. So it's hard to say at that point, but if not, I could also maybe then see just him just going after Silver for revenge, if Silver somehow gets out. So
let me ask you this, Strife: is there any possibility, if Terry sees the error of his ways, if he swoops in, assuming he gets out of legal trouble, he swoops in, he gets John Kreese out of legal trouble, he tries to make amends, do you think it's possible to repair that friendship?
Mm-mm. No way.
All done.
Yeah, Kreese has always been about a retaliation.
Yeah. I think you're right. Lucifer says, to add on the silver bullet, it's been implied that it needs time to sort of charge up, and that's not just a normal punch. So in a street fight 1-on-1, I don't think it works well. Interesting. Melissa, season 6 theory: when Sam finds out that Tori's mom has dialysis, she decides to get herself tested to find out if she's a match and can save Tori's mom's life, because Sam said they can help each other. That would be a very nice gesture. Yeah. And that would, I think, I know some people are don't like Sam, but something like that would definitely be a plus, I think, in Sam's column as a character.
Yeah. Definitely.
James says, wait, doesn't Kreese use a move that's just like the silver bullet? He tries to use it against Miyagi in Karate Kid 2 and 3. And I don't know, Strife, are those more just straight punches?
I think they're standard punches. I'd have to go back and rewatch, but yeah, because he just holds his fist up and then he just tries to charge. And the thing is, the stance is a lot different because you see with Kenny stance and Silver stance, they kind of do the whole. I make the joke because like when I saw like Silver flap his wings the first time, all I could think was Napoleon Dynamite doing that thing. So
right,
but yeah, he holds it a different way, and he has like his hand like that, and then he charges the gun. I'm not sure how exactly, but yeah. So yeah. So I think they're standard punch. I'd have to go back and rewatch, but if somehow did it, that's very awesome detail that the writers have paid attention, to just like those simple scenes. So
right. Darkest Hour says Kreese Colin Dugan or De Silver. And it's interesting talking straight with Nate, who's commented on this channel. I've met him before. He had a very interesting idea, and that is that Mike Barnes, the painting, the Rembrandt he takes from Terry Silver, that was stolen from the Gardner Museum in Boston. So that would be a connection to Boston, where it was the last time that we saw Colonel Dugan reside. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting way to connect the story in the Valley to Boston. I don't know if they'll use that, but obviously,
that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe Dugan's the security guard at the Gardner Museum now. I don't know. Chris says, I really think the writers made Stingray a much more interesting character. Especially, I didn't like Stingray and said that he's not a Cobra Kai style character and he doesn't belong. That's kind of interesting because, they gave him a bit more depth. You saw sort of this kind of melancholy side of him, where he kind of got what he wanted, but he didn't get what he wanted. And, he was conflicted. And then he was able to be the hero that he saw himself always as being, which is pretty cool. What are your thoughts about the Stingray character, Stripe?
Yeah, same thing. I thought he was a bit much in season 2. And then, season 4 and season 5 kind of tied up his arc a little bit nicely too. Just like that whole, that was probably one of the most shocking moments I remember seeing at the time with season 4 was just Silver just beating up Stingray because it was just like, yeah. Because I definitely think, it was something I wouldn't have put past Kreese, right? Because Kreese hit Dimitri, but that was very light compared to what Silver did to Stingray. So,
right, exactly. Jack Tripper says, I always liked Sam. 2 characters I hate the most, Tom Cole and Sensei Kim. That's so funny. And then Jay says, careful, Tom Cole might be Ken Cole's cousin. Yes, that could be true. I won't say anything. I won't say that you said anything. Darkest Hour says, Stingray's D&D explanation near the end was heartbreaking, and I didn't like him until that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting idea that Kim scenes were unwatchable. I almost threw my phone when she was torturing a minor Tori. And I've seen this. It's more violent. It's definitely darker and more violent, I think, season 5. Do you think they went a little far at all with, say, Sensei Kim and the punching of the stone?
I mean, I would say as a character, yes, Kim's methods were definitely extreme. I think nobody would really disagree with that. But at the same time, what I liked about it is that it showed that Terry was not the only one that was afraid to go to extreme measures, especially because, Kim is the closest to the source, which was Kim Sun Young. So, and you can, even though it wasn't as vicious as what Kim Da-eun did, you see in the flashback, he's like, Kreese looks at him and like, cause Silver's already down. He's like, no, strike him, like do it again. So you can only imagine that he probably was like just as hard, as not even harder of a teacher on his own granddaughter. So
right. So we're talking about Kim Da-eun, Kim Sun Young, and then of course Terry Silver. Their methods are extreme. So let's think about this. I know we've talked about this Hawk Kenny fight, and that people are obviously upset that Kenny beat Hawk.
Right.
But kind of like summing up, what would you say? It seems like there are a number of different reasons why people really shouldn't be that upset.
Get over it. It's just a show. No, but like it's seriously, it's like I think the writers did a good job of protecting Hawk as much as they could, because I can't remember if I've said this on a KenCast before. It might have been off the screen. It's like wrestling. You have all these moving parts of like, okay, you got to make this character look strong, but you can't have them like lose. So what do? They either have like a count out or disqualification, stuff like that. That way, it's not like it's a clean victory. Like it wasn't, and that's what people need to realize is that it wasn't a clean sweep. You know, it's not like Kenny just like hit Hawk 3 times and that was it. Like they did it like I think they did as they could, the best they could to protect Hawk's character while also making Kenny seem like a legitimate threat. So, but yeah, it just, it's a show, and the thing is too, like, I'm sure there's also going to be like some foresight later on, like in season 6, and whatnot too. But yeah, it's just, like I said, it's just a show, man. Don't take it so seriously.
Right. Jack jumps in. He says, but why in God's green earth was Hawk struggling against Kyler? Interesting.
At the end.
Know. Yeah.
I think it was just because like the multiple opponents too. Like as we saw, like, I mean, even Hawk in season 4. Again, it's been a while since I've seen season 5, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it. But I know exactly what Cindy's talking about. It's in the finale. But I mean, look, even in season 4, Hawk was at his peak then, and then he was still struggling to fight, like, against 4 or 5 people in a tattoo shop that cornered him. So,
do you think? I've seen people say this, that basically what happened in that fight at that moment in episode 8, it was kind of like forced for plot reasons. Do you think that's the case? Do you think they felt like that had to happen, so they needed to justify it somehow? Or like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe. I mean, like how else would have, they would have how else would have Cobra Kai gotten the Sekai Taikai? We know, if Miguel had gone, we know that he would have beaten Kenny easily. We know Robbie could have beaten Kenny. And we also know Hawk could have beaten Kenny too. But that's, again, they did their best they could to protect, both characters. Same thing why Tori wasn't in the fight against Sam in that season. Tori was unfocused, and she was still very conflicted about just the fact that like she didn't earn that victory. So that was eating her the whole time. And she also wasn't really even antagonistic towards Sam that whole time, that whole season. She didn't really like the rivalry. In some ways the rivalry was over for her. So the other thing too would have been like, okay, well, if Hawk beat Kenny and then Sam also beat Tori, then I think people would have been like, oh, well, it's too predictable. I think people would have been happy regardless, to be honest. So yeah, maybe it was forced for plot reasons, but if that was the case, I still think they did a really good job at doing what they could to protect, the characters involved. So,
right. Well, you brought up so many great things tonight, Strife. And the thing that really hit me the most is the fact that, yes, this was not a fair circumstance. This wasn't a fair fight. You had a very biased ref. It doesn't mean any. Basically, it doesn't mean anything. Anyway, even in the context of the story, it doesn't reflect badly on Hawk at all. I don't think.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I agree with you. It's interesting though. I think it's generated this much controversy.
Yeah.
And everyone, thank you in the chat. Thanks for joining in tonight.
Also, one thing I forgot to mention too, the ref also probably prematurely called the fight when he didn't have to.
Right.
Because it's not like you think about Daniel and Bobby in Karate Kid 1. Yeah, Daniel couldn't move. That was a legitimate reason to stop the fight. But like even after an elbow strike to his already injured leg in the finale of that movie, they still continued the fight. So that's another thing I forgot to bring up. So,
yep, and Miguel in the All Valley. I mean, he had plenty of time to recuperate, and he could have continued to fight. So, yeah, totally agree with you. That was really fishy. I know all of your fans are watching right now, and people on my channel are watching right now, and they're wondering, when is Strife the Warrior going to return from his rest?
Now you're gonna make me force a date? Come on, man. I'm enjoying my break.
Or like, do you think it'll be how, like, just generally, not a date, but just generally? Is it going to be? It could be a trip to Tahiti, where you only come back once you're fulfilled.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing is, I don't want to burn myself out like on Cobra Kai, like because
Right.
like as I said before, rewatching it so many times will, then I felt like I was forced to make the videos. And it's like I don't ever want to feel like that. But if not the end of this, which I don't think that's going to be the case. If I don't return by the end of this year, it'll be beginning next year.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think I'll be on the break that long. But yeah, it's just the other thing too is like even though I work from home, like on my normal job and YouTube, like when you're still working on all that stuff to you, it takes a lot of time away. Like I just kind of get like to give you guys an idea. I have my girlfriend, I'm in a long distance relationship with my girlfriend. I only see her once a month. I only saw her very briefly at the end of September, or excuse me, beginning of September. So I wanted, like, when I was done with the Cobra Kai, like I was, hey, I'm putting my foot down, I'm taking this break. Like, I gave up that to work on the series, like, to work on the season. So
Right.
like I need, I need my own stuff too. And like I don't want to put out anything I'm not proud of content wise,
Right.
because you guys deserve better than that. So
Very well said. Very well said, Strife. And guys, I want to echo that. That's absolutely true. It does take so much time, even to put together a relatively short video. It takes a lot of time, a lot of research. And so I'm actually on this channel looking forward to hopefully, moving into sort of like topics that, maybe are related somewhat, but aren't specifically Karate Kid or Cobra Kai. And, that really helps keep things fresh. And if there's something that you guys would like to see, let us know down in the comments, or let me know down in the comments, and head on over to Strife's channel, and you can message him and leave comments there too. Everyone needs to go subscribe to Strife the Warrior if you're not already subscribed. Even though he's on break right now, there's so many videos that you can go back and watch that he's done just such a great job on. And of course, if you're watching this and enjoy the KenCast, go ahead and hit subscribe. It makes you feel good. Go ahead and hit like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything going forward. I'm going to be traveling here next week and the week beyond. I might be going to Washington, D.C. to push my case to our nation's representatives and leaders about Terry Silver. So I might be doing live streams from there as well. So thank you all for watching. Strife, do you have any parting words for everyone?
I was gonna say, here's my suggestion. How about you guys drop another topic y'all want to talk? You guys want me and Ken to talk about? Doesn't even have to be Cobra Kai related. Like I'm down to talk about other movies and stuff like that too. So
yeah, and please let us know. And because this is easy, this is, we don't have to do like editing, and we can just talk with you guys. This is fun. So if you do want to have us talk about something, just let us know. Before we go, thank you so much, Jennifer.
Woo!
I really appreciate it. Thanks for the super chat, guys. It helps to keep the lights on. There are expenses of running a channel, and all you guys who are members, all you guys who give super chats, it really helps. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Well, Strife, thank you so much for joining me again. It is truly a pleasure to see you. And I look forward to joining you again soon.
Yes, thanks for having me, as always.
All right, guys. Well, take care. Watch season 5 again if you're so inspired. And I look forward to seeing you all next time on KenCast.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next time on KenCast.